murdered 3 close friends, and turned them into soap and biscuits. She even invited her neighbors to taste those horrifying treats. None other than the infamous female serial killer of Italy, Leonarda Cianciulli. She was performing an ancient sacrificial ritual, believing wholeheartedly in its power. When arrested, Leonarda calmly confessed the soap made from Virginia's flesh was the finest quality, and the biscuits, my children and I enjoyed them immensely. A confession that sent shivers down Italy's spine. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, but this is a true story. What caused all of this? And more importantly, what was she truly seeking in that ritual? Like and subscribe to uncover the full story behind this terrifying case. On April 18, 1894, in Montella, a small town in the province of Avellino, Italy, Leonarda Cianciulli was born. But from the very first moment of her life, she was unwanted. Her mother, Emila Dinolfi, despised this daughter. According to locals, Emila was forced by her family to marry Salvatore Cianciulli, a man she never loved. Some say that on her way home from a convent school, Emila was kidnapped and assaulted by Salvatore, leading to an unwanted pregnancy. Leonarda was the tragic result. From a young age, Leonarda lived under the cold, cruel treatment of her own mother. She never knew love like other children. In 1914, in an attempt to escape her miserable life, Leonarda met Raffaele Pansardi, a postal worker. This man gave her hope for a better future. But their marriage faced intense opposition from Emila, who had already arranged for Leonarda to marry a cousin. When Leonarda defied her, Emila cursed her daughter, condemning her to a life of endless misfortune. That curse seemed to come true. Just a few years into marriage, Raffaele became a severe alcoholic, dragging the entire family into poverty. Leonarda even went to prison for fraud just to make money for her husband's alcohol addiction. But what haunted her most wasn't poverty or prison, it was the tragedy of motherhood. Leonarda became pregnant 17 times, but fate was merciless. She suffered 3 miscarriages and 10 of her children died as infants, not even taking their first breath. The repeated losses left an unfillable void in Leonarda's heart, pushing her toward a dark path of crime. The 4 surviving children became her entire world. She became obsessively protective, willing to do anything to ensure they wouldn't be taken from her like the others. In 1930, a 6.7 magnitude earthquake destroyed their home, forcing the family to relocate to Corio. This was when Leonarda's mind began to spiral into extreme superstition. She sought out fortune tellers, mystics, and even performed occult rituals, hoping to alter her cursed fate. One fortune teller stared at her and spoke coldly, "You have only 2 paths, either prison or a mental asylum." These words pierced into Leonarda's mind like a dagger. She became haunted by terrifying nightmares every night. This obsession drove her deeper into the study of the occult. She learned palmistry, astrology, black magic, and even human sacrifices in a desperate attempt to ward off misfortune. She believed that death could be exchanged for fate, and that only human blood was powerful enough to break the curse. Meanwhile, her family life was collapsing. Raffaele, drowning in alcohol, was at the center of constant domestic fights. With no way to save the marriage, they decided to divorce. Once the papers were finalized, Leonarda and her 4 children moved to Corio, renting a small apartment on Vittorio Emanuele Avenue. To provide for her family, Leonarda opened a small shop, selling used clothes, soap, and reading tarot cards. Thanks to her sharp tongue and manipulative skills, she gradually became a respected woman in the neighborhood. Despite her dark past, it seemed like, for the first time in her life, Leonarda had found a sense of peace. She was well liked by the people around her. But deep down, she believed misfortune was still lurking, ready to take away the children she had fought so hard to protect. Her youngest daughter was attending a convent nursery. Her second and third sons had stable futures. One was serving in the military, while the other studied physical education. But all of Leonarda's focus was on her eldest son, Giuseppe. Giuseppe was studying literature at the University of Milan, but in 1939 he was at risk of being drafted into the war at any moment. Just the thought of her beloved son facing the horrors of war sent Leonarda into despair. The fear of death consumed her, driving her into a mental breakdown. In her delirium, she remembered a witch who had once helped her in the past. That woman had told her, "Only ancient magic can change your fate." A terrifying thought took root in Leonarda's mind. If she wanted to save Giuseppe from war, she had to perform a human sacrifice. According to Leonarda's later testimony in court, she claimed that her mother appeared in a dream and whispered, "Blood for blood. If you want to protect him, offer a soul." This blind faith completely consumed Leonarda's mind. Without hesitation, she decided that she would kill to ensure Giuseppe's safety. But who would be the sacrifice? Leonarda didn't have to look far. Her three closest friends became the perfect targets. The victims were chosen: Faustina Setti, an elderly, kind-hearted, lonely farmer; Franchesca Soavi, a nursery school teacher searching for a fresh opportunity; Virginia Cacioppo, a former opera singer, desperate to reclaim her lost fame. These three women frequently visited Leonarda's home. They saw her as a trusted friend, a spiritual advisor, a reliable fortune teller. Leonarda meticulously planned how to lure them in. She used tarot cards as the perfect tool to manipulate their minds. With Faustina Setti, Leonarda predicted that she would soon meet the love of her life and marry a wealthy man. Faustina immediately believed the prophecy and was thrilled by the prospect. December 17, 1939, Emiliana Fortunina Setti, known as Emila, prepared for what she believed would be the most important day of her life. From the early morning, Emila was busy perfecting her appearance. Meeting her neighbors, she couldn't contain her excitement. She proudly shared that she was soon to marry a rich gentleman and would move to a southern city in Italy to start a new life. No one suspected anything. The neighbors congratulated Emila, believing that she had finally found happiness after years of loneliness. That afternoon, Emila left her home, walked straight into Leonarda's apartment, and never returned. Strangely, no one raised suspicion. Everyone believed she had gone off to pursue love. However, it was all a masterfully orchestrated deception by Leonarda. To cover up her crime, Leonarda forced Emila to write letters in advance, informing her friends and family that she was on her way to meet her future husband. After killing her, Leonarda sent these letters, creating the perfect illusion and preventing any doubts about her disappearance. That day, when Emila stepped into Leonarda's apartment, her fate was sealed. Leonarda welcomed her with a glass of red wine, but inside, a lethal dose of sleeping drugs had already been mixed. As Emila started feeling dizzy, her vision blurred, and her limbs weakened, Leonarda approached her, gripping a sharp axe tightly. And then, Emila was brutally murdered before she could even comprehend what was happening. Immediately after, Leonarda dragged Emila's body into a hidden corner and dismembered her into multiple pieces. Emila's blood was carefully collected, ready for the gruesome sacrificial ritual that Leonarda believed would protect her son from war. The next step in her twisted plan, Leonarda prepared 2 large barrels pouring in 7 kilograms of sodium hydroxide caustic soda, a chemical that could dissolve human flesh. She mixed the remains of Emila with the caustic soda, boiling the mixture for hours until it became a thick, black paste. Then, she poured this into soap molds, left them to cool and solidify. But it didn't stop there. She took the remaining blood, allowed it to coagulate, dried it in the oven, then mixed it with flour, sugar, chocolate, milk, and eggs, kneading it into crisp biscuits. She served them to her guests, her neighbors, her friends, even her own children. This murderous mother didn't just kill, she made the people around her unknowingly participate in her horrific crimes. 9 months after the murder of Emila Setti, life in Correggio went on as usual. no one suspected anything. Leonarda continued playing the role of the kind, friendly woman. But deep inside, her obsession with the curse had not subsided. She believed that one sacrifice wasn't enough to protect her son. On September 5, 1940, Leonarda decided to continue her dark ritual. This time, she targeted Franchesca Clementina Soavi, a kind-hearted and gullible nursery school teacher. Leonarda painted a bright future for Franchesca. She was about to receive a major career breakthrough, an offer to become the director of a prestigious boarding school in Pienza. Leonarda spun an intricate lie, claiming that a close friend of hers managed the school and was looking for the perfect replacement, Franchesca. Franchesca fully believed Leonarda's deception. She eagerly began packing, excited for the new job that, in reality, never existed. To perfect the illusion, Leonarda once again demanded Franchesca to write farewell letters to her family and friends. She assured Franchesca that these letters would be sent once she had left Correggio, ensuring no one would question her disappearance. Franchesca was immensely grateful to Leonarda for helping her find this golden opportunity. On the fateful day, she arrived at Leonarda's home to bid farewell. Leonarda welcomed her with a glass of red wine, but just like before, the wine had been laced with an extreme dose of sleeping drugs. After just a few sips, Franchesca felt her body becoming heavier. She felt dazed, confused, before collapsing unconscious onto the floor. Leonarda didn't hesitate. She grabbed her trusted axe, walked up to Franchesca, and coldly ended her life. Once certain Franchesca was dead, Leonarda repeated the exact same process she had used for Emila. The soap and biscuits were made once again. 2 months later, on November 30th, 1940, Leonarda Cianciulli was convinced that her sacrificial rituals were working. She saw no signs of war threatening her son. There was no draft letter summoning Giuseppe to the battlefield. Superstition convinced Leonarda that the blood of her victims had shielded her son from harm. But it wasn't enough. She believed she had to continue her sacrifices to ensure absolute protection for her son. And this time, she had already chosen her third target. Virginia Cacioppo, a former opera singer who once enjoyed fame, was now a woman living in nostalgia. At 59 years old, Virginia had once shined on the grand stages of art. She studied vocal performance at the Milan Conservatory and made an impressive debut in Bizet's opera Carmen at the Metropolitan Theatre in July 1904. She had performed across Italy and beyond, but as she aged, she had to step aside for the younger generation. Yet, the fire of passion inside her never faded. It was her desperate longing to reclaim the spotlight that made Virginia the perfect prey for Leonarda. Leonarda crafted an irresistible offer: a job as a secretary for a mysterious theater manager in Florence. Not only that, but she also hinted at a romantic twist. Virginia was about to be proposed to by a wealthy gentleman. Virginia was swept away by the sweet dream that Leonarda painted. She didn't question it for a second. Just like with her previous victims, Leonarda warned Virginia not to tell anyone. She even prepared letters for Virginia's relatives to be sent after her departure. If she spoke of her plans, the fortune would vanish. At noon on November 30th, 1940, Virginia stepped into Leonarda's house. At that moment, her daughter-in-law, Albertina Fani, unknowingly witnessed the last time her mother-in-law was seen alive. Within the familiar walls of her house of horrors, Leonarda followed the same script. She welcomed Virginia with a glass of red wine laced with a strong dose of sleeping drugs. As Virginia became dizzy and lost consciousness, Leonarda grabbed her axe and carried out her now signature move. Virginia's body was processed the same way as the previous 2 victims. But this time, with experience, Leonarda executed everything more quickly and efficiently. But there was one difference. This time, she added an entire bottle of perfume to the soap mixture, creating a more fragrant and luxurious texture. Virginia's daughter-in-law, Albertina Fani, was the last person to see her alive. When Virginia mysteriously disappeared, Albertina immediately reported it to the Correggio police. At first, the police had no reason to suspect Leonarda, but as they dug deeper into disappearances in the area, a horrifying truth began to surface. It wasn't just Virginia. Leonarda's other two friends, Faustina Setti and Franchesca Soavi, had also vanished without a trace. 3 women, who didn't even know each other, had all disappeared after being last seen with Leonarda. That couldn't be a coincidence. The Corio police immediately launched a full-scale investigation. When the police searched Leonarda's home, they found undeniable evidence. Beneath the kitchen tiles, they discovered jewelry and personal belongings from all 3 victims. But the most chilling discovery lay in a small room behind the kitchen. There, the police found 3 sets of false teeth, one from each victim. The police also seized 3 blood-stained axes, several sharp knives, and most disturbingly, a massive cauldron. The very one Leonarda used to boil her victims into soap and biscuits. These horrifying tools of crime are still displayed today at the Museum of Criminology in Italy, serving as proof of one of the most terrifying murder cases in history. When arrested, Leonarda Cianciulli immediately confessed to all her crimes, without showing an ounce of remorse. She calmly described in gruesome detail how she lured her victims, planned their murders, and disposed of their bodies, leaving everyone in the courtroom horrified. On July 20, 1946, Leonarda was convicted on 3 main charges: premeditated murder of 3 victims, theft of their assets, and desecration of the deceased by turning them into soap and biscuits. The court initially sentenced Leonarda Cianciulli to 3 years of mandatory psychiatric treatment and 30 years in prison. However, after reviewing her case, the court reduced her sentence to 24 years, citing signs of mental instability. But as public outrage grew, her sentence was reinstated to 30 years due to the sheer brutality of her crimes. Leonarda served her time at the Pozzuoli Women's Prison. In her later years, she developed a rare neurological disease, causing her body to deteriorate rapidly. In 1970, at the age of 76, Leonarda Cianciulli died in a psychiatric hospital. She never once expressed guilt or remorse for her crimes. The story of the soap maker of Corio remains one of Italy's most chilling murder cases, sending shivers down spines worldwide. Even today, it remains a hotly debated case that sparks discussion whenever it's brought up. What do you think about this case? Leave your comments below. That's the end of this video. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we can bring you more thrilling and emotional stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.